I've, I've always loved kids. I've always wanted to be a mom. So even as a 20-year-old, with everything else that was happening at the time and them just obviously focusing on trying to save my life, it was huge. My name is Annie. I am half Brazilian, half English, and I've been in the Middle East now for 13 years. It's a long time. And I'm the mother of identical twin girls. I was briefly in the British military. I was an intelligence linguist, so I can shoot, I can handle the rifle. So English is actually my second language. Portuguese is my mother tongue, and I know 2 other languages fluently as well. Not many people know that I actually do live with an invisible illness. In the vasculitis community, we kind of label it as that because the majority of what happens to us is eternal and you don't necessarily see it from the outside. So whilst it may look like I'm a happy, healthy mom handling twin girls at home, I actually have a lot of battles and struggles that happens behind the scenes. So vasculitis, there's many different types. Lupus is a very popular one that many people know of. The type that I have is called vagus granulomatosis, and it affected primarily my lungs and my kidney function and a lot of upper respiratory. It's actually something that I'm struggling with right now, which is why I have a bit of a husky voice and I'm taking deeper breaths in between sentences. At the time, I was a perfectly healthy 20-year-old. I was training in the military, extremely active, and within the space of 6 weeks, I became extremely sick. I was finally diagnosed with it, placed in the ICU for 2 weeks, and because of all the damage that had been caused, they weren't quite sure whether I was going to make it or not. So we reached a point where my family were actually brought in and told to say their final goodbyes, which now thinking back is something that's difficult to fathom. So after diagnosis, the main treatment for it is a quite aggressive type of chemotherapy because they have to suppress your immune system. And with that came a whole other can of worms. Couldn't dress myself, I couldn't walk to the bathroom by myself, and the biggest one obviously had to be infertility. After being on chemotherapy for as long as I was, at the age of 21, I was told that unfortunately kids would be out of the picture for us. Being told at such a young age that I would potentially never have my own biological kids, I'd probably say it was harder than the actual diagnosis of the vasculitis. I've always loved kids. I've always wanted to be a mom. So even as a 20-year-old, with everything else that was happening at the time and them just obviously focusing on trying to save my life, it was huge. It was, I think, something that I'll remember for the rest of my life. So fast forward to 15 years later, and I was lucky enough to meet the love of my life. And it's another hurdle that came along with potentially meeting a life partner as well, because you have to be honest about the fact that you might not be able to have your own biological children. It is something that I was very open with from the start, but I was extremely lucky to have met someone who understood that somehow we would be a family, whether it was through adoption or potentially having the luck of being pregnant through IVF. We knew that we would be a family someday. We obviously had to jump through a billion other hoops to make sure that the vasculitis was in remission and everything was calm, and that my chronic kidney failure was at a level that was stable enough for me to be able to potentially hold a pregnancy. And we got given the thumbs up. We went to see fertility specialists. We went through 2 IUI treatments first, which unfortunately weren't successful. And then after those failed, you go through the whole grieving system of things not working out. You have to mentally prepare yourself for IVF. And we started the cycle, and I was extremely lucky. There's nothing else to it, honestly, but luck. We ended up with 3 embryos that we could potentially put back We placed one because we couldn't risk having a twin pregnancy because of my health. And the universe decided to laugh at us because soon after we put the embryo back, it decided to split into identical babies. And yeah, the rest is history. I'm now a mother of 2 healthy twin girls. I'm going to be brutally honest. Pregnancy was horrendous. I hated pregnancy, which came with its own kind of mental issues of balancing out the fact, oh great, we're finally pregnant, but at the same time I was so sick that I couldn't do anything. I couldn't sit up, I couldn't lay down, I couldn't walk, I couldn't drink anything. The smell of water to me was horrendous. So obviously that was just a side effect of having a healthy pregnancy, especially with twins, that hormones are raging and morning sickness was just horrendous. But for me, pregnancy was very, very tough, very tough. I was in and out of hospital. I had a flare-up from the vasculitis at week 6. So I actually had something called a subglottic stenosis, which is what I have now, which is a narrowing of the airway. I couldn't breathe very well. And at 6 weeks pregnant is the last thing you want to deal with. Okay, so our girls came along at 33 weeks and 2 days. From the start, even before we found out it was twins, from the start we always knew that we would potentially have a preterm labor because of my health complications. So it's a shock, you know, you have these beautiful little babies that have just been born and all you want to do is hold them and hug them and get to know them, but then they get taken away from you. You know it's for the best, but it's still extremely hard to process. So they were taken to the NICU where they subsequently spent 15 and 18 days. Twin 1 was able to come home after 15 days and twin 2 had to stay an extra 3 days. So again, our family was separated, which was really tough. There's a certain magic I feel to NICU babies. They're extremely resilient. Even before they've even had a chance to live, they've already had to go through so many obstacles and jump through so many hoops to just be allowed home. So as difficult as our NICU journey was, at the same time I'm grateful that we went through that. We learned a lot. We had a lot of support from the hospital and from our clinics. And yeah, it's a part of our journey and I wouldn't have it any other way. Yeah, my husband has been, again I'll get emotional, my husband has been my rock. From the beginning, he's just been amazing. And it was only after we actually delivered, I say we because honestly we did do it together. I didn't deliver this myself, we went through this together. I think people don't often realize what the fathers go through. He was dealing with a lot of anxiety, but at the same time he hid it so well because he didn't want to add extra pressure onto me. And I couldn't honestly have asked for a better person. We have been on this wild roller coaster rides of extreme highs and very, very deep lows, but we stuck together and we have come out of this stronger than ever. Like we are the stereotypical cheesy couple that you secretly hate because we do everything together. He's become an amazing father, and just watching him grow as a person as well through all of this has been amazing. Research things that will facilitate life with twins, things like a twinsy pillow or a twin breastfeeding pillow. My biggest piece of advice is trust yourself. Trust that you can do this. Trust that your babies are safe. So when the witching hour kicks in and you have 2 screaming babies yelling, crying at you, and you're by yourself and you're panicking and you're crying yourself as well, Just try to take a deep breath and step back and look at the bigger picture and know that they are healthy, that they are okay, and that sometimes you have to prioritize one over the other, and learn to deal with that mom guilt that comes along with it. And this goes for also having multiple kids. It's not just twins. You're a strong mom. You've gone through 9 months or 6 months or 7 months, however long you've been pregnant for, and you finally have your baby in front of you. So be kind to yourself. I think just take a deep breath and believe in yourself.